salary schedules and salary range update, and that's Councilman High.
We had tabled this at our last regularly scheduled meeting. There were some concerns that had been raised, and we wanted to give staff the opportunity to look into those concerns and come back to us with more information. Since then, Corey has gathered some information. I talked with them about the situation, and Corey will hand it over to you to provide that further information that we requested.
Okay, all right, well, thank you, Hack. I do have kind of an update. One of the things we were tasked with when we proposed this change in the impact of grades 31 through 36 would feel is that we can kind of give a background on where we were since the original salary study in 2017. That salary was conducted in the fall of 2017 and actually implemented within our fiscal year 18/19 budget. Since that time, there have been 2 increases that we have worked through from 2019 as well as 2020. And at that time, that is the last change that we have implemented since 2020. The original proposal that was submitted back in September was a 5% shift in our pay scale, and this was a result of the increase that we've seen on our minimum pay rate for our paid grades, former pay grades 8, 9, and 10, up to a minimum base salary of $15 per hour. That change did affect pay grades 11 through 36. Initially, that was a total of 36 employees that would fall below the minimum hiring rate as a result of this increase. That initially was roughly $157,000 in overall increases over the remainder of this fiscal year. When we look at the update, taking some of that information into account, some of the conversations and concerns that were brought up, the proposed changes tonight, what we do recommend is the council approve the 5% increase for all hourly pay grades. This will impact a total of 34 employees versus the original 39. These will impact grades 11 through 21, and that also that the town administration review the salary pay grades that were initially affected. That would not impact a total of 4 employees. These salary exempt employees we plan to review and try to make any improvements or changes as we work through the upcoming fiscal 23/24 budget. The original proposal did impact a total of 39 employees, but this has been updated now to 38, of which 4 will not be affected. So totaling $121,943 versus the original $157,000 proposal. The hourly overall increase should be noticed over the next 9 months in this current annual budget and the employees' pay, and this would represent the town council's continued efforts to improve the employment vacancies, recruitment, and overall retention of its current employees. You may ask why these numbers have changed. Since we originally visited this, there has been some other employees that are no longer with us or were removed from the study because of vacancies that were originally considered. So what we have presented tonight, I do recommend this would be a direct impact for pay grades 11 through 21. This would establish the same impact that the pay grades 8, 9, and 10 received in this current fiscal year budget when we worked through that, and we moved our pay rates for $12 for part-time and $15 minimum for full-time. So what this is doing is applying that same percentage increase for the remaining 34 employees that were presented in your packet tonight. One thing noteworthy here for us is this does impact a total of 34 employees. These are the folks that are out there in the field every day, working very hard whether that's our sanitation crews, our police staff, our fire staff, any of our water and sewer staff. So I do recommend that council consider this increase and the proposed revision from the original proposal.
Corey, is all 34 employees hourly employees?
Yes, no salary
No salary
employees will be impacted by this. We will revisit that going forward between now and our upcoming fiscal year. We're hoping to have a promising consumer price index pricing that will allow us to more conveniently make that increase if necessary. But also, when we look at the employees that were affected, two of these are still in the very early stages of their career, and some of the increases will be saw in the form of their probationary period increase, as well as any type of annual review that they may receive. So these employees aren't exactly overlooked, but they will finish more of their probationary period in their first annual review in that current position.
And that's pay grade 11 through 21.
Will directly be effective to 9/22 and up were the ones that were removed from the proposal.
So Corey, the intent of this was and is at least two parts of it. One, to get our starting wage up to $15 an hour. And then if we have existing employees, we didn't think it was fair for them if they've been here for a while and their wages were under $15 an hour for a new employee to earn more than people who've been with us for a while. Is that correct?
And that is, and so what this does is allows us to scale up the employees equally. When we discussed this at the last meeting, the $15 number was originally for the recruitment piece, for us to be more competitive. We had a huge issue with filling vacancies. Since that time of implementing this for July 1 of 2022, we had started to lose a lot of employees. So we had to focus on the retention piece. So Tammy and Virginia and I have worked on this since July of this year to try to correct the second group, which is the retention for current hourly employees.
So question for you, so this is inclusive with the 5%, so they'll get the 5% plus this increase, is that correct?
No, that is not correct.
Okay.
So the 5% shift the salary grade up that is in this proposal. Any employee is still applicable to any type of annual review that they would have, but by shifting our pay scale in the proposal from the $15 now, what this does is moves up everyone's minimum pay scale to match the same ratio that we did for pay grades 8, 9, and 10.
Right.
So if an employee has a review next month, that's something that we'll continue to go through as the policy states. But if an employee has just completed review in September, it'll be a full year before they go back around that cycle. The 5% that we're referencing, I think that you're referencing, is the budget cushion that we build into, Virginia builds into the budget every year for the potential for every employee for their annual performance to see a 5% increase, and up to a 5% increase in what they receive for their performance, which that's not always accurate. Some employees get below, some employees get unacceptable, some don't stay with us. What we do in forecasting is build in if every employee were to see that type of merit increase for their performance, not a shift in the salary schedule.
Gotcha.
So everyone didn't get that automatically on July 1st?
That's correct.
Gotcha.
Everyone did not get that. That was just built in for budgetary reasons.
Okay.
So it seems like to me that this is an attempt for us to give our hourly employees a living wage. And I think that that's the most important thing first. And second, the benefits that come from that to the town are we become more competitive and we retain people. But I think the moral side of this is that people that work here by the hour need to have a living wage to work here. So we need to be an employer that does that.
Yes, that's
That's my take.
So, but we did adopt the study that, the previous town manager proposed, is that correct? And are we taking the recommendation from that, or
From the 2017 study, or
was it 2017 or 2018, somewhere around there?
2017 is
Uh-huh.
when the original salary study was put in place. There
Uh-huh.
were two market adjustments for CPI and 2.5% towards, and this would have been in the budget year, fiscal year 19 and 20, calendar year 19, and fiscal year 20/21, calendar year 20. When those would have been implemented just in the budget. When we look at the consumer price index for calendar year 21, we're talking about 4.4%, and when we look at calendar year 22 for the CPI, we're talking about 8.8%. So what this does, in addition to what was already pre-budgeted, in case an employee gets a high performance review increase up to 5%, what this does is cushion us from the potential of the 13.2% that we could be off. This is the right step for us moving forward to cushion that.
I think my only concern is that if this should have been done before the new fiscal year started, July 1. Because it's a massive amount, 121, originally 156. So it should have been budgeted, to anyone, not just new starting with the town, but any existing, should have been put on the appropriate pay scale as well. Or if we're gonna introduce a new introductory of $15 like a starting pay, well, let's say if we had an employee that was on year 10, let's put them on, step 10, because that's where they should be at. Like that should have been budgeted before July 1, not in the middle of the budget year, and fiscal year.
And we originally approached that idea, but when we do something like that and have ample time before a budget, we would have reached out for a salary study to do this because of the 2017 study being so fresh. This is something that we knew we could do in-house, and we really didn't have the retention issues at that time until after the new calendar year started. So we worked really hard to move up to see what we could sustain for new employees, knowing that our existing employees were still here. This problem really reared it, shown itself after we implemented this year's fiscal year budget. And since July 1, we've lost over 5 key employees that have moved to other municipal locations that by chance were fortunate enough to make these shifts previously, and an employee could go to another municipal system at a higher wage because we were bound by what our wage structure would allow us to pay them.
How many employees do we have underneath the $15 mark?
None at this time, zero.
I think both you or Jim, one of you guys had mentioned that there was one that was making like 11 and some change.
No, those would be the ones that their initial pay 8 years ago was $11 per hour, and now they're at $15.05. And then a new hire would come in July 1 at $15. The way our policy reads that new hire that started July 1 of this year, in 6 months would get a 5% probationary increase. So now you've got a 6-month employee versus an 8-year employee that started 8 years ago at $11. That's worked its way up, trying to increase through annual performance or whatever they may have gotten, has just missed the mark. So why wouldn't that employee leave to go get $15?
Oh, no, that makes sense, but why wouldn't we just go ahead and bump them up to the appropriate step then?
That's what this study did for us. It's taken this long. We really wanted to have that salary study done. But what we completed in the month of August was that piece where we evaluated all 73 employees and seen if there was any deficiency in their current hourly wage.
Corey, I agree with Sambo about low income workers need the increase. Where will the funds come from? This is in addition to our budget.
Yes.
That's not funded in the current budget. So that's part of the issue that Councilman Costin was talking about. Where will the funds come from for this?
If you look at the amendment,
So just a
in your
fund
packet, you can
balance.
see exactly where they come from.
So-
Look at your next,
Same page.
These come directly from
On
our
page
general
3.
fund and any of the enterprise funds associated with those funds, like our electric, water, and Power Bill funds have their own revenue stream, and our general fund would pick up anything that the expense is covered by our general fund. So these are a fund balance transfer.
And these, the proposed budget amendments are not gonna put any of those, enterprise funds in any sort of danger.
Virginia, you feel comfortable?
Yes, sir, I
Okay.
do.
You look-
Sir,
you look-
any other questions of Corey for this? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, we have one opposed. Motion carried. Councilman Hines?
And Mayor, the next associated agenda item is directly tied to that first agenda item, and that would be the salary grade increases budget amendment, and I'll hand it over to Corey.
And so, thank you, Councilman Hyde. This amendment will allow the town of Edenton to bring these 34 hourly town employees impacted by the 5% increase into the minimum hiring rate for pay rates 11 through 12. The budget amendment represents a total of $146,389.52 for all wages, FICA, and retirement impacts. Myself, as well as the finance director, recommend that council approve the budget amendment as presented.
Any further questions?
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the budget amendment.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Have a motion and a second. Any further questions? If not, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And that takes care of our special meeting. And now, we would need to go into a closed session to meet with the town attorney. I need a motion to go into special.
So moved, Mayor.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Okay. We'll ask the public, if you will, to step out while we have a closed session. Closed session and back into regular session. And Councilman High, I'll let you,
Thank you, Mayor
go down
Stallings.
what was discussed.
The administrative committee has two items to report on tonight. One is on the Confederate Monument update, and as a part of that update, we met in closed session just a few minutes ago with our town attorney, Hood Ellis, regarding the legal status of some cases that affect us, and talked about other ways in which we could proceed other than previously discussed. And so what we talked about and what we've decided upon is Town Manager Corey Gooden is going to let the county know that if we don't hear back from them by November 15th, then we're going to have to move in another direction. Council has also asked Corey Gooden to present a list of other town properties that may be available for us to place the monument. The statute requires that it be in the city limits and that it be a prominent location. And so, Corey, we would ask that you not edit that list based on the fact that you might think something's not prominent. Give us a whole list of town-owned properties so we can take a look at those and discuss the prominence piece. But we would like to have all of those in front of us. In the meantime, as November 15th approaches, each council member is invited and encouraged to come up with other ideas that each individual council member may have if the November 15th deadline comes and passes. Attorney Ellis also talked to us about the status of the Forsyth County case that has been pending before the Supreme Court of North Carolina. Around a month or so ago, oral arguments were heard in that case, and based on the normal timeframes that our Supreme Court has in rendering decisions, Mr. Ellis feels like that decision could come in within the next month or two. One of the reasons, there's been some misunderstanding on why we feel that is important. Some people have said that case does not have anything to do with Chowan County, and to a certain extent, that is correct. But we do have an active lawsuit in Pasquotank County related to the movement of their monument, and our senior resident Superior Court judge for this First Judicial District of North Carolina has issued an injunction prohibiting Pasquotank County from moving that monument until such time that Judge Tillett receives guidance from the Supreme Court on this Forsyth County case. And the reason that's important to us is because Judge Tillett retains jurisdiction of all cases that are filed in his district, and he has indicated that if any monument cases come before him, that an injunction will be issued again until he hears from the Supreme Court on the Forsyth County case. So the decision that the Supreme Court of North Carolina renders may close doors, it may open doors as far as options, and it may also open our Superior Court judge up to not having some sort of comments that would be a blanket injunction on any such case that's heard. So it's important that we do hear from our attorney once that decision is handed down, but counsel is not going to sit still while that decision is being made. And November 8th is another target deadline where Corey will be presenting us a list of town properties, and then the other deadline is November 15th, where we hope to hear from the county on the proposal that we've already entered the resolution on. So that is the update that we have now on that particular item, and so we look forward to hearing from Corey on November 8th at our next meeting, and also look forward to hearing from the county or not November 15th. The second item that we need to report on the administrative committee is the special events ordinance and application. And what Corey and Dwayne are doing from time to time are taking a look at our various ordinances and policies and procedures to see if they need updating, and sometimes there might be something that happens that causes us to look at those. And I understand that there has been some late notice and maybe not following strictly the deadlines by some people or groups that have held special events here in the town recently, and that caused Dwayne and Corey to take a look at our special events ordinance and our application for those events, and to come up with recommended changes that might tighten that up or better serve us. So Corey, I'm going to hand that over to you to talk about that process that you and Dwayne went through, and what recommendations you may have for us, and we'll probably pass that on to full council at our next meeting.
And Dwayne's here to help answer any questions. Thank you, Councilman High, that is correct. We've had some instances that have come up for events that either have not given us ample time to be able to present to council certain things that were needed for that event, or to help with the approval process, as well as some of the ones that we've received in-house that the administration can approve that may require additional needs from the town, such as off-duty police officers or road closures. And what it's doing is allowing us to start that process and really establish the correct time period for folks to be able to turn those in for any type of special event. This is something that would be in addition to any other forms that we already have, but at least this will identify all the objects that a group may need the town to support them with. It will also allow them to know who the point of contact is for anything that's needed, and will also give us ample time to be able to use officers, to be able to allow documents to circulate from our police department, from our fire department to emergency services with the county, and then back to the administration. So, a lot of these events require 4 hands to touch these documents, separate from the applicant and the ladies at Town Hall. before approval is already done, so it really puts us in a crunch when something's brought in on a Wednesday and needed on a Thursday. It doesn't, you know, sometimes we have to say you can't have an event because we couldn't approve, you know, or we couldn't find staffing. And so really what it's for is to allow us more options to plan accordingly. Dwayne, was there anything I've missed?
If this is approved at our next meeting, how would you get this information out to the public?
I think we would continue to follow suit as we have done for the remainder of this calendar year, and this be something that we really try to enact in case there are any revisions or changes or anything that's presented at the next council, and just for the timing as we approach the holiday season. I don't want to really shift anything that we've already have done for the last 9 or 10 months of this calendar year. The folks are in kind of a routine of, so we'd like to try to enact it January 1.
Corey, would you describe these changes that you and Dwayne have worked on as like a complete makeover of the ordinance, or is it more tweaking of some things, individual things that y'all felt needed some work on?
Most of the items that are, actually all the items that are presented in the application and the ordinance, particularly with the application, those are all items that needed to be specifically addressed. That someone may have said, well, I didn't know I needed that, or I didn't know this was something that needed to be approved for my event. Like it fills in a lot of vacancies of things that won't clarify to the public. And so this is really a full turnkey. This is really the start for almost any event that an individual would need or would like to happen here in town. This is really the starting point. This is something we can start, you know, this is in addition to what we'll fill out for park reservation, what we'll fill out for a road closure, for any resolution that may be needed. So this is really a who's who of all the items that need to be addressed for a group or an individual to.
Like Boogie on the Broad next year?
Yes, yes.
And the actual text that's behind that form that you were just showing us, is it possible to highlight or underline what's new in that, or has been changed in that?
Okay.
I mean, if you have time to get into it before we actually vote on it,
We
I
can
don't
do
expect
that.
you to go through it line by line tonight, particularly if you don't have it there in front of you.
And I do not, and I think that's
Yeah.
something that Dwayne and Tammy and I can work on to try to.
That would be
provide that.
helpful. But I've talked to you about it, and I'm in favor of what you're trying to do.
It really, you know, it's hard for us to schedule guys who have already maybe been scheduled for the month to call someone in a day or two before an event and try to get them back in. I mean, it really creates some kind of tension there with getting folks back in to help kind of facilitate these type of events.
But I want to thank you and Wayne. It is an impressive document, but like Councilman Hyde has said, it takes some time to go through this, to look through it. I hope we have, if you give us the differences between this, and I think most of this is new, so there's not going to be a lot of things to compare it to. But this is a massive undertaking, a big change in our policies, it looks like to me, in terms of how we operate our public spaces. A special event would be 50 people or more, is that how you see it?
Yeah, and the majority of these events that we're trying to address during this calendar year, we've had more events that have came up that are larger groups than our typical parade or anything like that we've commonly had. They're kind of unique entertainment style events. And so what this does is allow us, we didn't really have options that were clear for when folks want to host a large event. That kind of laid out, you know, what was needed other than just reserving a park somewhere. So, you know, as we've seen an increase in the type of events that range anywhere, I think on this application, there's a spot here for events up to 500 attendants or more. So, you know, we're starting to see larger and larger gathering events for celebrations that are hosted. I think within the past month, we've had environmental group that had a rather large event here, but just reserving Colonial Park isn't quite enough to satisfy these big, you know, weekend-long events. So, I mean, there's more to that. Now, this helps us address kind of laying that out, you know, multi-day events.
If one of these four people say, I disapprove, does that nix the entire event?
I think we would have a conversation first with that. I would have a conversation with whichever person that had some concerns and didn't approve the application, to find out what their concerns were, present those back to the group and share with them what the issue was and what we feel like, is there a way of remedying that we can move past it so we can approve the permit. That would be how we would proceed.
Do you feel like this document is a good balance between public safety and treating our employees fairly, but also still being receptive to events, because these events are important to our town?
Yes, I do, and we want to continue to encourage events. We want to continue to encourage the public to use our facilities, use our streets for parades. And, you know, we enjoy hosting those. We don't want this to be anything more than an additional resource to allow folks to you know, share in the experience and what we have.
You just won't know about it before the day before.
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well, Mayor, I would recommend that Corey, Dwayne, and Tammy let us know what changes were made, but that we move this forward for consideration at our next full meeting of town council.
Okay, thank you, sir. And the next on our committee meeting is the Finance Committee, that's chaired by Councilman Dixon.
So this is very brief. Corey and, with you, Corey, Virginia, went to a meeting about how to plan for the American Relief Plan Act and community outreach. And so they came back with some ideas about we needed to have some town meetings, do some online surveys, get groups of people together on how to spend 50% of the grant. And I think we're gonna move that forward, and then y'all will figure out exactly how we wanna do that.
And what we would like to request tonight is the council go ahead and initiate the task for us to start looking at our calendar dates, because we are approaching the end of the calendar year with holiday season. We want to be, you know, considerate of that. But one of the things that we really learned is that when it came to public space improvement, when it came to things that were not, you know, asset purchases that would have gotten that municipal system in any type of debt, just like we did with the first 50%, that a big piece of that was community outreach. You know, us coming back to, or the council, or me coming back to council to present options for a recreational improvement. I mean, that's just the plan, but when it comes to some of the specifics, the details, I think that's really where this community outreach becomes important. You know, us making any type of suggestion to improve an asset's one thing, but letting the neighbors of that asset have input to help provide the improvements and help us with the specifics. That's really what this is hoping to bring to the table. And Councilman Coleman and I have been working on some dates moving forward as some potential options up until this point, and we would like to try to share some of the community outreach dates and the town hall meetings that we would like to have, I would say, over the next 90 days.
And you will get those dates to us?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. So we'll move that forward if somebody has any. I think that's it for the Finance Committee.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir. And that concludes our committee meetings, so we are adjourned.
Thank you, Mayor.